Ron gets a bit more upset about Harry continuously saying Voldemort's name.
See?
Like, it's always like Harry says his name and then he's just Ron is crunging at it or whatever.
Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of the audiobook podcast. The book that we're reviewing today is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I think it feels right to pick Harry Potter as the first book to review in a book review podcast. It's the biggest book in the world. It's a title everybody knows. It's familiar ground to start this unfamiliar venture. It's something that we've all have different experiences with and something that we can get into a flow and talk about. I'm just going to ask each of my co-hosts here, what do you know about this book?
I know the book inside and out, cover to cover, back to front. I could talk for days about it.
Have you read and experienced all the external universe media?
I wouldn't say all of it because I think there's so much, but
Yeah.
definitely a good lot.
So you mean you haven't read all 10,000 fan fictions?
Well, I'm getting through them, but it's a bit of a slog. No.
Yeah, so
Well,
Jonathan, yeah, oh sorry Stephen, go ahead.
Just on that, I did when I was younger, like read through some of the fan fictions, and some of them were pretty good, and some of them were trash.
Yeah, some of them are absolutely horrible, but yeah, some are good.
I actually wrote a chapter for one.
Oh really?
I'll never be able to find it now, and I can't remember what it was about. But yeah,
That's a shame. Like we could have reviewed that as well. Like.
no, I wouldn't even. I wouldn't put myself through that.
Yeah. Jonathan, what about you? What's your experience with this book?
Well, actually, this is the first time that I've ever read the book. I was always a fan of the films, growing up. These were the big blockbusters when I was younger. But as for the audiobook, the hard book itself, I had never read, but the audiobook, this was the first time. And I'd say I think that it was probably better than the films. I think the detail that the book actually goes into kind of ignited that kind of passion that I had for it when I was younger, kind of reignited it. So I think the audiobook was a great experience for me.
Yeah.
They actually go for it.
The way I've heard it like described, the difference between the movies and the books is like the movies is where you want to see Hogwarts, but if you want to be in Hogwarts, you read the books.
Yeah,
And I think that's
Yeah.
that kind of sums up how I would feel the difference between them. So I'll just go over what I know about the book. I've read the book, I would say, at least half a dozen times. I've reread this book so many times. It's one of the few books that I do come back to every few years or so. I've seen all the movies.
But just on that, because I forgot to say, yeah, it's a book that I would kind of typically read once a year, usually around Christmas time. So around now.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me,
just because
it
it's
feels
a
like
nice
even though this is the first time I read the book, the actual movies I would always watch around Christmas time.
Yeah. It's like a nice tradition that I like to do. So yeah, I definitely familiar with it.
I think it's that kind of cold season I do associate it with as well. I think a lot of people are the same. It's a Christmas kind of watch for some reason, even though it's not majorly Christmas themed.
It's a magical time apparently, so it's...
Yeah, it could be something like that, yeah. Okay, so I think we're going to hop straight onto our review here. We've all read this book, so we're going to just break it down here. I think, Jonathan, what was your impressions reading this, since this was your first time reading the book? You've briefly gone over it there, but if you want to go into a bit more detail.
Well, I think the main thing is the differences between, for me, the differences between the movie and the book. And one thing that I spoke with both of the co-hosts here about is the character of Peeves, who was left out of the films. So I believe that they actually did film scenes, but they actually just cut them out then from the first movie. But I just think it was such a, because it's kind of a prankster character, it maybe would have been better to have it in the movie, especially for a younger audience.
Yeah.
I'm not completely sure why they cut it out, but I just think the books and reading about the mischief of Peeves kind of was one of the main things I enjoyed more about the book than I did about the movie.
Yeah.
Would you say he's your favourite character?
I would say he's up there, and I would have liked to have seen Peeves at Hogwarts as a live human being.
Like rereading the book, it's definitely emphasized that this is a children's book. It's like it is very silly in tone at times, but I think that fits well with everything.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Go on, Stephen.
Yeah, it's like it's a kid's book, but there's like there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of intricate kind of emotional stuff wrapped up in it, and kind of obviously themes of neglect and stuff like that as well, and all that kind of
a lot of loss is like a very common thread in Harry Potter.
Yeah, so it's like
the series in general.
It's like a kid's book that's wrapped in a lot of kind of more adult sort of themes.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's then J.K. Rowling, her mum like passed away just before she published this book, so like you can kind of feel the gravity and the weight of that, I think.
Oh, really?
And these books, just in terms of characters, how do you feel like Harry Potter handles characters? Do you feel like they're well fleshed out, they're well written, or?
I think like the character of Snape is one particularly, that person that kind of hates Harry, is kind of his almost his enemy at school, but he also then has an actual child enemy as well in Malfoy. So I feel like the fact that he's got all these people against him at this place, that's he's got away from his non-magical life with the Dursleys, so he's now in this new world which he's really enjoying, but there's still these people that are against him in some way, and obviously the main adversary of Voldemort is was I not supposed to say that?
Spoiler.
Sorry, he who must not be named. Yes. So he's come out of the normal world where everything's boring, and the worst thing he has to deal with is the Dursleys, just the neglect and stuff. But now he's got people trying to murder him and things like that. So, but somehow this world is better for him. So I think the characters in the magical world make that.
Yeah, I think that's part of like what makes the story so enduring, is like that contrast between his normal horrible life and then this wish fulfillment of going to this school and doing all these spells and stuff. It's like you're on your own mundane world, and then picking up these books is like you go into that. What about you, Stephen? What do you think about the characters in Harry Potter?
Well, I think they are all well defined. Kind of each one, they all have different intricacies that are kind of unique to them. Like, trying to think of examples. Like Dumbledore's a weirdo, and he's got like, he's like, completely odd and strange, even for someone who lives in a magical world. You've got Ron, who's struggling against all the brothers and stuff. Hermione, who's like this kind of know-it-all person who doesn't get people don't get on with her because she's like a show-off sort of thing. And yeah, they've all got sort of their own thing to show. And I can't think of any two characters that are
they're all
same.
They're all distinct.
They're distinct. Yes, yeah. Maybe Crabbe and Goyle are the same, but again, that I mean,
it feels like that serves a function, like, doesn't it? It's not like It's not a flaw, really. It doesn't feel like, yeah.
Yeah.
Even that they're in this magical school, which is, make believe, it still feels like these are people that could have been at your own school. There was always that person in your class who was the smartest,
Yeah.
and the show off, and there's, the bullies and things like that. It still has that school feeling.
Yeah, it has that sort of reflection, of like my own life, certainly. Yeah.
What do you think about Harry himself as a character? Do you think he's a good protagonist?
I mean, yeah. I guess he is. Like, I mean, he kind of bugs me at times, but
yeah,
because
he's
I think that
he
tries to, because all this has happened to him. I feel like he often feels like other people shouldn't be, putting themselves in harm's way for him.
Yeah.
And he in a way, is trying to be, selfless, but he's at that same time being selfish by making it all about him.
Did you get any more, do you feel like you got any more insight into him, Jonathan, as reading the book compared to formerly just having watched the movies? Or do you feel it just, the movies give a good reflection?
I think because he is the main character, the movies, make a big effort to portray his character very well.
Yeah.
I think there's other things, like for example, in the books, I feel like Fred and George, who are two of my favourite characters, get a lot more,
focus,
screen time because it's a book, but focus, so in the books, and obviously their stuff is quite interesting. Their jokes, the pranks and things that they play, and they're just quite funny characters. So I think that there are characters within the book that I feel get more focus than were in the actual movie.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest strong points of Harry Potter is every character does, as Stephen was saying, feels very distinct. Even characters who get the briefest of mentions, who are here for just moments. It's something I think J.K. Rowling does really well. Is her side characters, her secondary characters, are just, they feel so distinct and so there. Even sometimes I think people have criticized these books retrospectively of the Dursleys being a bit one-dimensional because they only serve one purpose of being horrible. But again, I think it's a children's book. It's those characters are there just to serve a function of exhibiting Harry's horrible life. I don't think every character has to be really fleshed out. You can just have a character who's about one note, especially if it's a secondary character.
I think if just on the Dursleys, I think she does go back in sort of the later books and kind of corrects that one note at least. Yeah. At least we Mrs. Dursley and Dudley, maybe not we Vernon so much, but she kind of portrays a different side to them where Petunia's got the jealous sort of thing going on, and Dudley, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how much of our structure it's breaking to talk about future, but just to be vague about it, I would say I think that's something J.K. Rowling does really well as well. She always, and future books, she does elaborate on things, and she always corrects, maybe not previous errors, but things that don't feel as fleshed out, she does go on to more then in the future. I feel like she was good at addressing things like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything about Harry. I just want to say I do think he's a really good protagonist. He's not, you've got Hermione, who is probably a more fleshed out character than Harry, because I feel like she has an insert. I feel she has...
Mary Sue, is that the term?
Yeah, you could maybe say, because a Mary Sue, for anybody who's listening who doesn't know, is it's basically a character who's good at everything, and they can solve conflicts, and it doesn't really feel earned. I would say Hermione's not that bad because we know why Hermione's good at things. She reads a lot, it does feel a bit more earned when she solves problems. But I would say Harry's not as fleshed out as Hermione, because I think Hermione as J.K. Rowling. I think that as a self-insert of the author. He's probably not even as fleshed out as Ron, but I think the fact that he isn't as distinct means that you can place yourself. You can be Harry more.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, as you read or reading or listening to the book, you kind of, I do in a way, kind of insert myself into that character in a way where it's I'm kind of it's from my POV. Then does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Like I get really immersed.
Yeah,
So yeah, that definitely I would agree.
yeah. Still keeping on the topic of characters, Jonathan touched on this briefly, that there's a lot of foils in this book. There's a lot of characters who are just obstacles for Harry. But in terms of main villains, how do you feel this book handles villains? What do you think of the villains?
Well, let's discuss who the villains are first of all of the piece.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got the big bad.
Yeah.
He who must not be named, and I shan't name him. You've got Quirrell, who is like an extension of him.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Snape has that sort of villainous streak.
Yeah.
Or at least you're led to believe that he's the villain.
And as
Malfoy,
Jonathan was saying, Malfoy,
Malfoy and the Dursleys, yeah. So, what was the question?
how do you feel it handles villains? I mean, what do you think makes a good villain?
What makes a good villain? Well, I suppose a reason for why they're a villain. You know,
Yeah.
They have they
Motivation.
have a purpose rather than just I'm just evil, like for no reason.
Yeah.
And I guess that's not really explored much in the.
That's
in the first
that's
book.
that's something the series touches on more. Yeah.
Yeah, so you know I'll talk about the big one first. So he who must not be named. He kind of it's very there's like an air of mystery around him because people aren't talking about him. People don't like to talk about him.
Yeah,
and,
he's scary.
He's supposed to be like a boogeyman.
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly.
So you don't really know much about him in the first one, apart from he killed Harry's parent. Spoiler.
I can still remember my first time watching the movies, reading the books. I thought Voldemort was very scary.
Yeah.
The mystery behind him felt more intense than anything that could ever be revealed. What about you, Jonathan? How do you...
Just on the Voldemort mystery and scariness. Sorry, he must not be named. You're worse than Ron in the book. Actually, I think that's another distinction between the book and the movie is that Ron gets a bit more upset about Harry continuously saying Voldemort's name.
Sake.
Like, it's always like Harry says his name and then he's just Ron is crunging at it or whatever. But the scene it's in the books as well and the movies, especially because it was where I first seen it when I was younger. I'm more susceptible to being frightened by things. Was when they're in the Forbidden Forest and they first see Voldemort, it's actually Professor Quirrell, but he's got he's cloaked and hooded, so you don't actually see his face or nothing, so you don't know who it is until Harry has the experience with the person, and then the centaurs and Hagrid kind of discuss who it actually was, and Harry realizes who it was. That scene in itself is kind of, I feel, sums up the kind of fear of who Voldemort was. But I think I kind of did speak about it earlier about my favourite kind of character who is essentially in this first one anyway is bad, or is betrayed as bad from the get-go, is Professor Snape. And he's just, I think it's because he's that teacher that, again, like I said before, there's like all these students, all the characters you could kind of relate them to real life people that you were at school. There was always that teacher that was kind of really strict and really mean and just kind of felt like they would get on to you just for no reason, just because they were angry at something else and they were taking it out on you. And I feel like
Snape, like a shorthand,
portrayal of that. Yeah, and they did have their favourites too, who they weren't as mean to.
Yeah, so I think he was just a great character. I think just because he was actually, I mean, a great character you'd think would have to be someone so made up, but he's actually a great character because he's so similar to somebody in real life.
Yeah, would be getting on the spoiler for the rest of the series, but I think the way his motivations are handled throughout the series is the way it's elaborated on is something again that Rowling handles really well.
Yeah, but I would like to say though that everybody seems to like, this is kind of touches on future titles again, but everybody seems to like love Snape towards the end, right? And I don't. I still think he's a.
Yeah.
There was no need for why.
If we ever get to the last book, I may or may not agree with you, Stephen. I have strong feelings about it as well, but we'll see if we ever get to the last book in this, and we'll definitely touch on that because I also have very strong opinions on that. Yeah. I think we touched on character well there. Fantasy as a genre, definitely big emphasis on setting. How do you feel about the settings of Harry Potter, like Hogwarts and the train and so many like iconic places?
Well, yeah. So I mentioned it before about getting really immersed, and definitely with this series and not so many other series, I can fully picture the world. So I think it's really well done, like really well described everything and all the rest of it. Because I can properly picture everything in my mind's eye as I'm listening or reading. So
Yeah,
I really like the set and I think it's really well done.
yeah,
Yeah, I think just because I've seen the film first, whenever I read the book or listen to the audiobook, sorry, I kind of just picture what I've seen in the
yeah,
film.
definitely.
So, and you just once you've seen
Yeah,
it, you can't get away
yeah,
from that.
definitely.
So I feel like I do feel the book does describe it well in terms of well, I suppose the movie kind of tried to copy what the book was describing. So the movie actually did a good job of doing what the book said. Um, but I feel like for future books, ones that there is a movie for but I haven't seen, it would be a better comparison at that
Yeah,
stage. But yeah, I just think about the movie when I'm picturing it.
yeah. Setting to me, I think it's the strongest part about this series. I think Hogwarts, Diagon Alley, all the places that are introduced, they're just so well realized. There's brief mentions of history, but see, I don't know if you picked up on this, like reading this time, but there's so many things that are hinted at that are become part of the series later. Just when they're walking through Diagon Alley, it's like, oh, this is brought up in the last book again. This is, I think,
Oh
like,
yeah.
I think J.K. Rowling, like, I don't think she is this genius who had the master plan all along, which some people think. I think she's really good. She was really good at going back and saying, I'm going to use that again.
Yeah, I think so too. Like a lot of stuff's weaved together. Like even in the first book, this might I don't know how far you've got, Jonathan, reading the others, but one character that it always kind of sticks in my mind when I listen to the first book again is Daedalus Diggle. If you know him at the very start, they talk about him a few times.
Mm-hmm.
He appears in the last book for the first time, I think, and I just think that's a nice touch to have stuff like that where characters come back.
Well, even Ollivander's like that, doesn't he? Like
Yeah.
he's only in the first book,
Yeah,
and then he appears then in the last one.
but
again.
this is a character who's like he doesn't really have much of a role, but he's still
Yeah.
the fact that he shows up again is still like a nice wee like nod,
Yeah.
that it is a world. It's
Yeah.
not
It
just
makes
like
it makes the world feel like it's so real. It makes it feel like a living,
Yeah.
breathing place when you get more on a character like that.
exactly, yeah. So that's every time I listen to it, yeah, that kind of sticks out to me, and I think. What is it? The line? It's McGonagall. I think it's the very first chapter. It's McGonagall talking to Dumbledore, and he says there's something about shooting stars.
Yeah.
In a country, and McGonagall says, I bet it was Daedalus Diggle, and yeah, and then you meet him
Yeah.
later on, and
Yeah.
you kind of get that sense that it would have been him because
Yeah.
of how he acts.
I think that makes me think of like another common criticism of Harry Potter is it's some people I've seen people on the internet say sometimes they're like the world building it's not as deep as like something like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, but it's hard to ever be as deep as Lord of the Rings in terms of world building because that took 20 years to world build. But like
Yeah.
I think these are deep world build books. Like I think there is a lot going on. It's just J.K. Rowling is so good at that she breezes over things where it feels
Well,
simple, but there's a lot going on.
just on that, you mentioned Game of Thrones, didn't in the world building, the actual world itself, didn't he base a lot of that on England and like the War of
Yeah,
Roses
it's
and
yeah,
stuff?
War
So,
of
I mean,
Roses. Yeah.
so he's you know
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's derivative, but it's definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure we will review that book eventually. We can talk about that. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: does this fit into setting, right? Because the first couple of chapters I think is really good because there's still that sort of air of mystery.
Yeah.
Where he's talking about how he goes to school and these weird things are happening. Like he suddenly ended up on the roof and he thought the wind caught him mid jump or whatever.
Yeah.
And they go to the zoo and all that, and all the weird stuff happens. And I think those first couple of chapters are really really good because
Yeah.
they kind of introduce the character and set up the sort of mysterious feeling.
One of my favorite authors, he would always say that fantasy as in the genre, it's like the window dressing around a genre, the actual genre. So Harry Potter is actually the genre is fantasy mystery, really, I would say. These are mystery books. They're based on the characters looking for clues, finding the information. That's what drives the plots in all of these books. How do you feel about the mystery in this book? Was it like a compelling mystery? Did you guess anything from your first reading? Was it easy to figure out? Did it surprise you? Things like that.
Well, it's hard to know because my first read and lesson would have been like 20 something years ago. So
Yeah.
it's hard to say, but and that's kind of modeled by the films and stuff too. So I'm not really sure.
I think the comment on this. I think the biggest thing for me. So this is probably the main spoiler of the whole thing, is that Professor Quirrell and Voldemort, were sharing the same body. I think the fact that it was Professor Quirrell was helping him. The whole thing leads you towards thinking it's Snape.
Snape's a red herring, yeah.
As someone, like, as a child, you'll obviously fall for that and you'll think Snape's the bad guy because you think this is just, a classic, like, Disney movie where it's completely obvious or whatever. But it's, I think, even for the person that's, like, okay, they're obviously pointing us towards Snape, so it's not Snape, so who else could it be? I think guessing that it was Professor Quirrell would have been, quite out there. It's, you kind of wouldn't have seen that it was him, so I feel like the whole keeping that a mystery that Quirrell was actually the bad guy all along was, quite good. I remember, being quite surprised by that one, watching it when I was younger.
Do you feel like it's a satisfying reveal? Like, I think that's like a line that mysteries toe. It has to be surprising, but it also has to feel inevitable. Like, you could have guessed it. Like, were you satisfied by it being revealed as Quirrell, if you can, like, remember back?
Yeah, I think it was. Sorry to cut in, but yeah, I think it was satisfying because it was like a kind of shock. It would have been like a shock, like, no way, it was him.
Yeah,
this wee, like, nerdy kind of shy, scared guy. Hardly. He turns out to be this pure hard guy.
Yeah.
See, this is a question. I think this might be a distinction between the book. I would need to go back. In the, Quirrell can't touch Harry.
Yeah.
But in the book, I'm pretty sure he shakes his hand in the book, and in the
shakes
film,
it to
he
start?
actually, in the film, he pulls his hand away. Like, he doesn't shake Harry's hand when he puts his hand out to shake it.
Right. I've never really.
In the book, did you say
that.
he does that? He pulls away.
No, in the book, he actually shakes it.
All right. Well, see, I was going to bring this up later, or mention this at some point, but at that point, I don't think, as I remember, I don't think Voldemort has merged with him. Yeah.
Right.
So he says Professor Quirrell at that stage.
Yeah, he says it's something at the end, where it's like, my master had to keep a closer eye on me, and I think that's happening after that is when they kind of fused.
Right.
Yes. See, that makes sense. I feel like the movie thought that it might be a bit hard for the watcher to, get that, so they maybe took the handshake out.
Yeah.
I mean, because people would question it, like I'm doing right now, so maybe that's why the movie did that.
But another thing, the movie, isn't he also wearing the turban? Which doesn't make sense if he's not.
He is.
Because obviously in the book, I don't think they describe what he's wearing, like. But
yeah.
But I think it's subtle things like that, where you kind of have to read between the lines to realise that if that is the case, that it's just Quirrell by himself at that stage in the book. You kind of have to read between the lines to work that out, and that's why I like reading them every year, because there's still like stuff to figure out and theory craft as well. Me and the missus like to theorize about stuff that we'll never get answers to because it's a fictional setting, and yeah.
And that is a sign of good world building, that so many people write so many fan fictions and have so many theories, because the world just does feel so real to everybody in terms of the mystery and everything. I did find a satisfying reveal, as Jonathan was saying. The fact that it was Snape, it was heavily signposted, and it's probably as a mystery where an adult would probably figure it out, but it is a children's book and it's enough kind of the full children, I think, so it is effective. The only complaint I would have about the plot, and this is really, it happens a lot in the Chamber of Secrets especially, but it happens in this book too, where a lot of the information reveal sometimes can feel a bit unearned, because a lot of it is just very coincidental. It's Harry stumbling around a corner when two people happen to be having an important conversation, and it happens a lot. And Chamber of Secrets, if that's a book we review later, I'll point out several examples, but I think she gets away with it because he's got the invisibility cloak, so it feels like it's part of how things work a bit more, but there is a lot of coincidences, I think, in the first couple of books.
I think in Chamber of Secrets it's kind of it's definitely more blatant, but it does happen in the first book. Like
I would definitely say I think Chamber of Secrets is probably the weakest of the series, but I don't know if that's a controversial opinion.
I would agree.
I still like a lot about that book, and if we talk about it, I will talk about the things I like, but I'd definitely say it would be the weakest in my opinion.
The only reason I would rate the first one higher is because it's the first one.
The mystery is kind of first introduced and stuff.
What was I going to say? Yeah, so examples of that, like Michael, like obviously the Forbidden Forest thing. The time they meet outside the restricted section, Snape and Quirrell, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think like every single story ever has coincidences in it, and you have to let some stuff go. But I think it just happens a bit too much in Chamber of Secrets. Just
the first book though. What like examples?
Yeah, like the Snape and Quirrell conversation is one of them. There, there's just I can't think off the top of my head now, but there's a few that always come to mind every time I reread them, and I'm just like it does feel very coincidental, but it's a very minor complaint. Like it's not a big deal.
I'm just gonna try and think up some now. So Snape and Quirrell outside the restricted section, finding the mirror. Then isn't that after that? It's a bit random. What else? Because he needed to find that to be able to solve the puzzle at the end. So
yeah.
The dog too, when he stumbles across Fluffy, like they just kind of like go into that room by accident.
Yeah.
To get away from.
So like I think like in a mystery, you ideally want to feel like people are figuring things out, not stumbling onto things, like if that makes sense. So I guess
because it is children, like they're trying to make it seem a bit clumsy.
Yeah, and that is something you can always say about Harry Potter. It's these books are for children, so I think you should be more forgiving on things.
Now, another kind of one, which is not really like the protagonist doesn't stumble upon something, but Malfoy finding out about Norbert is a bit of a out of nowhere, isn't it? Doesn't he?
Yeah.
Or is it? I can't remember. He visits Ron in the hospital, and then for some reason, I can't remember now. Or did he overhear them talking, and that's why he went to the library?
Something like that. There's a lot of just people overhearing things. Next thing I wanted to talk about is I don't know if you have any opinions on this. If not, we can move on. But do you have any opinions on like J.K. Rowling's writing style?
Not really. I mean, I like it.
I think it's quite easy. Like it is simple. Like it's easy for a child to read. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite easy to listen to.
Yeah, it's very whimsical. Yeah.
Yeah, you could just like stick it on, and you don't have to put too much effort into listening to it. It's just kind of So I think that's good.
I think she has like good like economy of description part where she would describe Hagrid. It's just like he was too big to exist or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a very simple line, but it describes exactly what Hagrid is.
And too big to be allowed, I think is the
that's it. And she does that so often. I think Vernon's face turned beetroot and everything. It's really vivid, and it doesn't take up many words. It's just so economical, good description, I think.
Yeah.
One complaint that a lot of people say about, and it's not as obvious in the audiobook, but people say she uses a lot of adverbs. One that she uses a lot is everything Percy says is pompously. People don't like a lot of adverbs and description because it's telling you what they think of the character without letting the character's personality do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But I don't think it doesn't stand out as much to me on an audiobook format. Like and it doesn't really annoy me anyway. I think it's just worth mentioning. It is something people complain about, but I don't think it's a big deal. So this is an audiobook that we're reviewing, so I think we should at least touch on now Stephen Fry's performance here. What do you think about how Stephen Fry delivers this book?
Well, Yeah, anyone that's listening to Stephen Fry knows that he's just an absolute treat to listen to. His voice is very, it's he's got a very calm voice, but he also does like the voices as well. Like I think particularly in this book, his Hagrid is just like spot on. Like, but he does, I think maybe his female voices are a bit, maybe they sound kind of the same.
Yeah.
But I guess it is hard for a male maybe to do female voices. But no, I think a lot of the characters, I don't know, like if he based like because he probably has seen the movies himself, of course. Like if he's like just seen the movie and just kind of try to recreate what the actor sounded like. But regardless, like he's just he's got quite a nice voice to listen to. Quite easy on the ears.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like I could listen to Stephen Fry all day. It's just so easy to listen to, and his voice it's like music to my ears, And yeah, just the way he does the characters is brilliant, and I couldn't think of a better voice actor, like not voice actor, but reader.
Yeah, narrator. Yeah.
For any book, like if I could listen to him doing anything, and it would just chill me out, no matter what.
I feel like I did a lot of complaining in previous sections, so I'm going to make up for it now and say I have absolutely no complaints at all about Stephen Fry's performance. He is absolutely amazing, and I agree 100% with you. All his voices are so distinct, and he suits this story so well. But like Stephen was saying, he could read anything, I think, but he just does an amazing job here, and I genuinely think I've listened to hundreds of audiobooks. I think this is either the best or it's definitely in my top 3 audiobook performances. It's just amazing.
It's definitely up there, yeah. And it's very consistent too. Like I've noticed in a few books that I've listened to where the person reading stumbles sometimes with a character's name, or maybe just a certain way they would say something.
Happens a lot in Game of Thrones, I can tell you, because I've been listening to that book recently.
He always calls Joffrey Jeffrey in that.
Yeah, and Catelyn is Caitlin.
See, he's very consistent, and I don't know, I just get the feeling that he is a fan of the books as well, if that makes sense.
He gets on that.
He put a lot into
his passion definitely comes across big time, I would agree.
Which is a big point. Big selling point for me for
definitely.
I love when he says like Malfoy as well, because he always goes Draco Malfoy. Like it's like pure posh, and it's like it kind of describes how like kind of much you hate the character by the way he's saying this.
That's
Actually, that I'm gonna just take back something I said there. There's one instance where he does, maybe it's actually all of them now that I think about it, but the way he says Gryffindor, at least the first couple of times, it's a bit weird. He says like Gryffindor.
Yeah, I did notice that. Yeah. So, I think that's most of the things I wanted to touch over in the reviews. I just want to say, is there any criticisms you would have of this book? Anything that we didn't go over?
Yeah, I'll start on.
I definitely have something to bring up. The Norbert bit.
The whole Norbert bit, I think, is pointless, and I don't know why it's included. I do like that bit, but for pure plot, I don't think it's important.
Yeah.
Like the outcome of that is that they get detention, and I'm sure there was hundreds of ways that they could have got detention otherwise. Where that's like it's at least a full chapter.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it does kind of flesh Hagrid out a bit more. That he likes monsters and creatures and interesting creatures as he calls them.
But here, don't they also lose 150 points for Gryffindor doing that?
Yeah.
So they had to build the tension with the House Cup.
Definitely does serve a purpose, I would say, but I would agree with Stephen too. I do think it is one of the weaker sections of the book.
Yeah. Like there's a few things that happen in it that's interesting, but it's never expanded upon. Like Charlie comes with his mates, or no, Charlie's mates come and they take Norbert away and stuff, but like you never see them ever again and stuff, and you never get to see Charlie in Romania doing the dragon
and
stuff.
As we said before, like J.K. Rowling was so good at expanding on things that she's used previously. It is weird that she doesn't expand on that ever.
Yeah.
What about you, Jonathan? Do you have any complaints, any criticisms?
No, I actually quite enjoyed the book. Like, I don't really have nothing major that I didn't not enjoy about it. It's
Yeah, yeah. What, Stephen? Do you have anything else to add? Because I have a big topic I want to bring up next that we're
let me
that
have a wee quick
I'm gonna
think.
get.
Well, you go first, and then
Okay,
I'll have a
I'm gonna
think.
get really heated over this because this is
Good.
this is something that the internet complains about a lot. This is something that really, really annoys me. We have to talk about Quidditch.
Okay.
The point system in Quidditch makes absolutely no sense, and I hate it. I hate it so much.
Well, the whole game is a bit
Yeah,
like, because the snitch, just the snitch is like the main point for those.
there's just no point. There's no point in any
But
of the game apart from the Seeker.
It ruins the game. Yeah.
It does.
Like, if it was just, let's call it what it is, a basketball like football club, right? They're kind of mixed between them. Well, yeah. If it was that, it probably would have been far better. To be honest, but
Remove the snitch, put a timer or something, and that's you fixed Quidditch. It's interesting now.
yeah, put a timer on it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now the
Although
other players have a purpose.
I will say though that even though I don't like the snitch, like fundamentally, I do think I like that the games can go on for days. I think that's just an interesting thing. Where it's like it's like a weird, it's like
a weird quirk.
Another example where the magical world is kind of weird in that sense, where like everybody's okay for the sport to go on for days.
I can see that. Yeah.
what they should do instead is like, so the snitch, you catch the snitch, you get 150 points and the game ends. And obviously most of the time that's going to mean that you win the game unless the other team had more than 150 points by the time you caught it.
Yeah.
But what they should do is just make the snitch maybe worth, say, 50 or 100 or whatever, some amount of points, but when you catch it, it doesn't end, it just resets, and there is a time limit. So then by the end, like if you catch a snitch, you get a massive boost of points essentially.
Yeah.
So it is like, because it is quite difficult to do.
So you can still make like the purpose of the Seeker is so Harry can be the hero. Like it's narratively satisfying.
Yeah.
We get to see Harry be the big hero. So you can still you could. There's so many ways you could have worked it where there's still a Seeker. Harry gets his big moment, and Quidditch makes a bit more sense. I wish this is something that had have been like addressed to her, and she had have reworked it a bit because it could have made sense. But it just the way it says it. Yeah.
Another thing about those chapters, though, there's a lot of like, it's not some of the Quidditch chapters in all the books. It's not always just about the people playing too. It's like a lot of spectator stuff goes on as well.
Yeah.
Or like commentary box. I seem to remember from the first one where Lee Jordan is doing his whole thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it feels kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's almost like a POV switch, you know?
Yeah, because that's one thing too, if I can even talk about like writing style again to get boring again, but there's a point of view, there's different points of view styles. One is called omniscient, which just means that you're talking from like the perspective of basically the narrator. You're like God. J.R.R. Tolkien uses this. It's not really common to write in. But J.K. Rowling does weird things with POV. Sometimes she starts chapters and omniscient, then she'll go to third person limited, which is basically just through the eyes of the character, and they don't know what anybody else is thinking or anything. And then she'll skip onto somebody else's POV just for like a couple of sentences. Then she'll go back into omniscient. So especially during Quidditch games, she does a lot of weird things with POV, as like you were saying. But that's just one technical thing too. And I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. Just saying it's a thing you don't read in many other books.
Yeah, I think now that you've brought it up, Quidditch is it's definitely on the weaker side, I think, for me.
Yeah.
I do like those chapters, but
yeah, I still like that Quidditch exists.
It doesn't do a lot for the plot. Yeah, I like that it exists, and it expands the world in that sort of way. Yeah, but it doesn't do anything really for the plot. I mean, let's look at it purely from the first book. So Harry's good at Seeker. That means he can catch the key at the end. That's kind of the reason that a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it could have been anybody. They all could have just. Long should be a good flyer, surely.
Yeah.
But
I like that. I like that Harry is good at something naturally. Like you brought up the fact about Mary Sue earlier. One thing that you can definitely say, Harry Potter is not a Mary Sue. He always earns, like, you always see, like, for example, in the third one, when he uses his spells, you see him agonizing learning these spells and stuff. He always does earn his victories and everything, and he's got such a crap life outside of Hogwarts. He's definitely not like a wish fulfillment character before the plot begins. So I like that there's just one thing that he's good at, and that's it. Like, it just feels like a good balance.
Yeah, I would agree. That's kind of triggered something in my brain here. See, in the first book, does he ever cast a spell? I think it's in the first film he doesn't cast a spell. And
Right.
It's like a thing people notice, or maybe I made that up.
Never noticed that.
I can't.
He
actually.
tries to do like Wingardium Leviosa and things like that, but I don't think he's quite good at spells.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never noticed. Yeah.
I just as we were talking, I'm trying to think now of a situation where he cast a spell. Other than not trying, like he actually just did it, and I can't think of one.
I can't think. Yeah.
It's always Hermione or sometimes Ron.
Yeah.
Ron does the Wingardium Leviosa for the troll, but
Yeah.
that's
he does that fake one at the start. Yeah.
Yeah, the conversation there you had about the Quidditch. Remember, you spoke earlier about the hating that Harry was, or one of the characters kind of was in a coincidence situation.
Yeah.
Well, he actually is found to be a good seeker by coincidence because he's getting Neville
Yeah,
Longbottom's remembral, and then he just happens to get caught. Like if that never happened, they would have never known he was a good seeker.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another good example of it. There is a lot of coincidences in the Harry Potter books, but I think the good outweighs the bad. Like, definitely. So we're gonna do a star rating now. 1 star if you hated it, 5 stars if you loved it, and then everything in between. So I'll go on to Jonathan first. Out of 5, what do you rate Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by Stephen Fry and J.K. Rowling?
I will give it a 4.5.
4.5?
Yeah, I think I absolutely enjoyed it, and like I said, I didn't really have any faults with it.
Yeah.
I think just because the story isn't complete yet, that's the only reason I don't kind of give it a 5 until I'm completely through the story.
Yeah.
But in terms of this actual on its own, I think and the actual performance as well. I think the performance of Stephen Fry I would give a 5, and the story a 4.5.
Yeah.
So overall, a 4.5.
That's interesting. So we're going to do the narration.
Yeah, I forgot we said we would break it down like that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so on the Stephen, out of 5, what would you give Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone?
I think, I don't know. I mean, my guts kind of tell me to say 5 because obviously, big fan, read it every year, whatever. But my head's telling me to say a 4 because if it was like a standalone book, right? There are, I think, it definitely improves the book once you've read the other books. There's a lot of stuff set up and whatever.
J.K. Rowling is good at improving on things that I think as it goes on.
I feel like I should give the rating for the book as if it was a standalone, and I'm gonna say 4. I like the world building, the general story, all that, but there's a few times where there's stuff that either doesn't make any sense, or it wasn't needed, like Norbert or the Quidditch stuff. Yeah. So I'm gonna say 4. For narration, can you go to 6? Is that possible? Because I would absolutely do it. I think Stephen Fry is amazing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So I'm going to give my rating here, and it might surprise you. I am going to give Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone a 5. I think I spent a lot of this review criticizing some things, but I just I wanted to give a balanced view on things, but I think a 5 isn't flawless. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as a flawless piece of art. 5 for me is a masterpiece, and I think this book is a masterpiece. I think it is. The characters are so vivid, the setting is so vivid. It became the biggest cultural phenomenon in the world, and it it's just, there's a reason for that, I think, and it's just such a great book. It's so well realized and everything, and the things that I brought up as flaws in it, they're just so minor compared to what this book gets right. It's just an incredible book, and I read it basically, I think, every year, because it is just an amazing book. Narration, definitely a 5 as well. I don't think I could say anything else that you guys haven't said on Stephen Fry. It's just a great performance, and I would give it top marks as well. So we'll move on to comparison to other media. Comparisons to other media. There are games, stage plays based on Harry Potter as well. The big one, obviously, is the movie. So we'll say that. We'll start with that anyway. How do you feel the book compares to the movie? Do you think the movie is a good representation of the book?
I mean, I think it definitely is like a good representation, but it does lose a lot of things, as Jonathan said. It loses a lot of not key points, but a lot of interesting things, like a lot of quirks. But again, some stuff doesn't translate to cinema, so that's the thing. Now, if it was a TV series and the stuff was cut out, then I'd have more of a problem. But yeah, I think the movie, I don't want to say faithful, right? But I think it is a good representation of the book.
It is. I would say it is a faithful adaptation. Like, if you've ever read, even I read a lot of Stephen King books, and obviously so many of his books have been turned into movies, and so many of them are just so different to the books. It's Harry Potter as a very faithful adaptation, even if it does change.
I'm not saying it's not faithful. I just don't want to use that term.
Oh no, I know you're not. I'm just stating my opinion on whether it is or not.
Yeah, I think it's right. It's faithful. Like the main points are still kept. I think it's just the minor details, like Peeves. Like, he's not absolutely key to the storyline or nothing like that. I think he just I don't know why they did drop him, because I feel like it would have added a wee bit of tension, because he's always playing the pranks that's kind of, when they're trying to be quiet, because they're sneaking around at night. So that element might have been good in the movie, but it's not the absolute key. So it's not the worst, the end of the world that they took it out.
I think he was cut because they were trying to fit a lot of stuff in, and again, like I said, it doesn't. There's so much in it that you can't put everything into the film, into cinema. So
I do agree though with Jonathan. I think Peeves would have been worth putting in and maybe cutting something else. I do agree. Like, he's a good. He would build tension. He does build a lot of tension on the stories. I think he would have been worth putting on. But I think the movie, as I said, it's a very faithful adaptation. It is. I think it does give a very good representation of this story. It's a really good movie. It's a really solid movie. I wouldn't quite describe it as a masterpiece the way I described the book. I just think there's something special. You really experience Hogwarts reading the book.
One thing about the movie is that some of the characters don't match totally what they should. Like, Snape's too old, obviously, but it's Alan Rickman, so he gets away with it.
Yeah.
Harry's eyes are blue, whereas they're actually supposed to be green.
Yeah,
and they're supposed to match as well.
Yeah, that's like a key thing. Everybody keeps saying that in the book. it's never touched on in the film.
Because I actually you read a thing of the reason they did that is because they actually give him green contact lenses, but he was allergic to them, so they hurt him. So
I was actually going to say, why not just give him contact lenses? But yeah, he totally that makes sense.
They did try it,
but and like Hermione's supposed to have like buck teeth and stuff, and but again, it doesn't really matter that she's not.
Yeah, that's a very common thing in adaptations where characters are just made to look a lot more, pretty or handsome or whatever than they are described in the books. Like, you can be more flawed in a book than you can in a movie generally in Hollywood.
Because you're not going to upset anyone, but I think to Hagrid as well. Hagrid's supposed to be absolutely huge, but there's only so much you can do on screen. That even though they do a good job making him look so much bigger, like, he's supposed to be like twice the height of a normal man and stuff like that. But no, I think the movies were definitely. I mean, the movies of what got me into it. So have a kind of soft spot for the movies.
Yeah. And you do rewatch, like I rewatch the movies. Do you rewatch them regularly?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, every couple of years.
I think that's a sign of a good movie if you rewatch it. Even if you can pick out bad things, the fact that you rewatch it means something is done very right in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's games as well. I played the PlayStation game for Harry Potter. Did you guys play any games or anything?
Everyone knows PS1 Hagrid.
Everybody knows PS.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. That's, I mean, a perfectly faithful representation of Hagrid right there. I have to say that. That's what I picture him. I don't picture Robbie Coltrane. I picture that when I'm listening to the book. But no, I mean I think they should remake those games. Maybe not remake the games, but redo those games.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I'm quite
format.
excited for is the new game, the Hogwarts Legacy. It's due to come out in February 2023, but
very excited.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's like gives you the chance to go to Hogwarts, and kind of. I'm sure everyone when they turned 11 and didn't receive their Hogwarts letter was pretty disappointed. So
well, see, we didn't get our letter because he must not been in destroyed all the records of Muggleborns between 80 something and 97.
Oh, is that what happened?
So that's what happened. So
yes.
they didn't know. They didn't know, but they didn't know to send them.
I see.
You'll find that out later, Jonathan. Sorry, spoilers.
Did you guys did you enjoy the game then? I can vaguely remember it. It wasn't like the strongest Harry Potter game. I think the third one was the best game, but it was pretty alright from what I remember.
I would say the second one's the best game, but I have not so much the PS1 game, but definitely the Game Boy game. Or was it Game Boy Advance? I can't remember. One
I
or
remember
two.
that. Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
I have very vivid memories playing it. And,
that was a good game.
Loved it.
It was a really good game. Yeah.
The only thing I remember from the games is the one where you're in the burrow, the house of the Weasleys, and you have to like smash the gnomes or something like
That's
that.
the second one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only part of the game I remember. I can't remember much. I was obviously quite young, so.
So we're gonna do trivia here. I know this was my pick, and I should really bring a lot to the table here, but I've got very little to say on trivia this week. I'm letting the side down a bit. Do you guys have anything to bring up in terms of trivia?
Okay, so maybe this is kind of expanding on what you said about Peeves, about him being cut. But Peeves was actually he was played by Rick Mail, famous English comedian, and he's in a lot of not sitcoms, but like comedy shows that you see on like BBC and stuff, like the Young Ones and Bottom and stuff. Hilarious. But the trivia piece that I was going to bring up is that I think it was an interview that I watched with him, and he mentioned about how he had told his kids that he was going to be in this film, the Philosopher's Stone, and they got all really, really excited and stuff. And he didn't tell them who he was going to be, and they went to the screening and stuff, and he didn't know that he had been caught. Right. So they were watching this film with his kids, or maybe they just went to the cinema or whatever. But they were watching the film, and at the end they asked him, "Oh, like who were you in the film?" And he told them that he was Hagrid. And he believed it.
That's heartbreaking.
So, but he said he told them he was Hagrid or something. I think. So I thought that was pretty funny.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I've got a good one here. I don't. You might already know this, but I'll just go for it now. So you know that the book is actually called The Sorcerer's Stone in America.
Yes. Yes.
And that is because the American company that's published it, they didn't think that a child would want to read something with the title Philosopher, so they changed it to Sorcerer to make it sound a bit more magical.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why the difference exists. Although I would always call it the Philosopher because that's the first name that I heard about it, so that's what I got.
That is Rowling's title, yeah.
Yeah. I have a question. I have a question that I can ask.
Yeah.
They see if you know the answer. So this is just a test. This is to test your knowledge and see how much you're paying attention. And now this is actually mentioned again. I've only done the first 4 audiobooks, so it's actually mentioned again in the fourth one, I think. So you've had
Right.
It's not like this is only mentioned in one place.
Right.
So, which football or soccer team does Dean Thomas support?
West Ham.
Yes.
Correct.
You've just reminded me about my other bit of trivia. Thanks.
Go for it.
So, did you know that Dean Thomas was supposed to have a bigger role? And he was supposed to. There's supposed to be more in the kind of core group. Like, you know how
So,
Neville.
like, is it like the Hermione?
Yeah, him and Neville, I think, were supposed to be like in that sort of core friend group, and that's why in the first book you'll notice that Dean gets a lot of screen time, where like Seamus doesn't.
Right.
I'm kind of glad they did just make it the group of 3. You know, I couldn't really imagine it being any bigger. Like the three is like a good number of kind of people they go, you know, because they're always getting in trouble and stuff. It's always like a good kind of number.
Speaking from a podcast of 3 people, it's the perfect number.
Exactly.
So we're just gonna talk about what else are we reading, or what other media are we going through at the moment? Is there anything you are reading at the moment, Jonathan, or anything that you're watching, or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll maybe talk about a couple. Actually, my profession is a software engineer, so I would listen to some software engineering podcasts. So one that's particularly good is the Arraycast. So it's actually about array programming languages, which is what I usually use in my day to day. But it's quite interesting too for other people that are like other software engineers that are, you know, wanting to maybe get into that kind of, because a lot of banks and financial kind of people would use like vector languages, so they're quite highly sought after. But the actual podcast itself is quite interesting. They have like lots of guests and things like that from that industry. So yeah, that would be in terms of podcasts. In terms of what I'm watching, I've actually been watching The Crown recently. After the death of Queen Elizabeth, it just kind of got me, you know, wanting to kind of, I would be quite into history, so I was quite interested in the history of the monarchy, and The Crown covers Queen Elizabeth's kind of reign from when she first gets crowned. So yeah, and yeah, so from what I've only 5 episodes in now, but yeah, it's quite good so far. So
I'm first of all listening to Iron Gold again, a 4th book of the Red Rising series. Another one that I love, and I'm absolutely gonna be mentioning that for one of my picks. Not the first one though, but yeah. What else? As for like stuff I'm watching and that, I'm kind of sleeping on TV at the moment. You know, obviously like House of the Dragon and Andor, and what's the other one? The Lord of the Rings one. I haven't watched any of them, but I need to. I actually I just finished What We Do in the Shadows, the TV series, which is amazing. I would recommend. Very fun.
Is there a movie?
Yeah, there was the movie came out first. Yeah,
with what you call him? Who does?
Taika Waititi.
I've seen the movie. It's really good.
So he I think he's like.
Where is that?
It's
where's it on?
iPlayer.
Yeah.
They only have the first 3 seasons. They don't have the 4th, but it's awesome.
So I'm just going to talk about one thing that I'm watching at the minute is the last season of Better Call Saul. It's all out at the minute for as of time of recording. So I've got a bit of catching up to do. I think I'm just finished the mid-season finale, and it is absolutely phenomenal, and I highly recommend it. It is really good.
Mid-season finale was a shocker.
Yeah, I you know when people say their jaw dropped, actually my mouth was open for a good couple of minutes after the credits rolled. So it's really, really good. It's so well made. Plugs. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you're working on that you want to advertise here or anything?
Not for me. It's all secretive. I can tell you. It's all under wraps.
I guess myself, I work on. So I work for a company, KX, and they have a new community page. So it's kind of like a Stack Overflow, but just for the company. It's called KX Community. So I'm actually been making videos for the programming language Q that we use to program within the company. So those videos are actually just doing small coding challenges using the Q language. But yeah, just something I've kind of been working on, and if people are interested, again, like the Raycast, which is like a vector podcast, if anyone's interested in vector programming, yeah, you can go check it out.
And I am working on another podcast as well in addition to this. Just something. It's just something I'm working on myself. It's just some story narration, so you get to hear me criticize people here and then do a really bad job of narrating stories on my own. But I haven't released anything yet, and it's something I hope to get one episode out this month, so I'll keep you updated on that on maybe the next episode.
Nice.
And now it's time for next pick, so I will just say this officially ends my turn. I'm passing the torch now over to Stephen. Stephen, what is your pick for next episode?
Yeah, my pick, I'm a bit nervous about giving this pick because I'm slightly concerned that Michael was the one who told me about this book, so it might ruin the guessing game. But here we go anyway. My pick is Inferno, not the Dan Brown one, for those.
Right.
Right, not that one.
Right.
It is by Larry Niven and Jerry Purnell. So that's my pick. Do you want to have a guess at what the book is about? It's based on the title.
I know about Larry Niven, so I think Jonathan should go first just because it's the smallest bit of context. But I have, so it's not going to inform my guess much better. No, I didn't. I've read the Dan Brown Inferno, and I thought that's what you were recommending for a second, but I haven't read the Larry Niven one now.
I don't. To be honest, it's just based on the name Inferno. It sounds like something like the devil, essentially, because of you have Dante's Inferno and things like that. So my guess is it's something in terms of Satan or demons, things like that.
Okay.
That's my guess based on the
I
title.
Really write this stuff down so that see you next time. So what did you say? Satan.
Well, sure, it's recorded.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah, it's recorded, but I'm not gonna listen back to it. No, I probably won't. So Satan.
Oh, this is tough. Like looking at the cover and the title. I know I've heard of Larry Niven's name before. I've never read anything from him. I've heard him I listened to Writing Excuses, which is a podcast hosted by one of my favorite authors, Brandon Sanderson. He's talked about Larry Niven before. That's where I know the name from. I think he's a science fiction writer.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, based on this cover, I'm gonna say that it's a religious allegory, and it's something to do with hell. I'll say that science fiction, religious allegory, hell. I'll say it's a planet that's based on hell that they visit, and I don't know.
Okay.
They visit.
Here.
Yeah.
I actually feel better about my guess now.
Good. We'll see how close you were in the next episode then. But yeah, that's my pick. So it's Inferno by Larry Niven and Jerry Purnell.
And that is it. That ties up the first episode of the audiobook podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, and that'll be Inferno to read next week, or listen to preferably, because this is an audiobook podcast.